We haven't planned this at all.
No.
This episode. We're probably just go through what's been going on since the last podcast, really.
I can't remember what that was.
It was last week. So
Where am I? Who am I?
Shut up, your mum. Right. Right. We went to Manchester.
Manchester.
What a shithole. What a shithole. we had a podcast with Christian in Birmingham, another shithole. I said to him, like, how the fuck do you live here? He loves it. But yeah.
Got back to Exeter and it was like nobody spat.
Yeah. Why did we go to Manchester? So we went up to Manchester to see Robbie. We shot some content.
We did.
That's cool, wasn't it?
At Flex and Tone, which was, if you're in Manchester, that's the gym to go to. Not FLF, it's shit.
Yeah. So Flex and Tone, we did a shoot. So Mana did her kind of session there. What did you train? You trained that chest, didn't you?
Just won't go up at my mouth with porridge.
I
trained shoulder, delts and arms.
Delts and arms. You train delts and arms. If you want to see what that looks like for Mana. On the road, it's a little bit different, as you can imagine, because you're just trying to adapt to the kit that feels good to you rather than having our normal selections.
And sharing a double bed that I swear was smaller than a double bed with a mammoth man. I was not in the best place for training.
Yeah, it was a bit small, wasn't it?
It was a bit painful.
Yeah, we stayed at
the Shea Robbie's.
Yeah, Shea Robbie's. We stayed at Robbie's, so yeah, he has a rather small bed. Like I guess we're quite
big.
because
I mean, both of us together.
You're wide as fuck.
We're like the size of a double bed, just as it is.
Yeah, you're wide as fuck. So that was uncomfortable.
Very grateful to Robbie though. We're not slagging off his place. Just
no, the place was fucking brilliant. It was brilliant, but Robbie, next time, mate. King size, please, at least. We've actually got a Super King, haven't we? We got that last year after the deadlift, or did we get it at turn of the year?
No, we got it when I can't remember.
Well, we got a Super King, and that is like, yeah, it takes up pretty much all of the bedroom. But tell you what, like, so worth it. So if you're like a bodybuilder, even if your partner's not a bodybuilder and your partner is always squashed, or in most people's experience, they move over to all the way to your side. Not you, but this is a woman thing. Like, they have all the space on their side, but they decide to come onto your side whilst you are a furnace, and they not indirect to you at all. No. Yeah, Super King, well worth it. It's like changed my sleep, to be fair.
And one of those mattresses that when there's an earthquake because he decides to roll over, you can't feel it. Top tip.
Yeah, we did get a good mattress as well, didn't we?
Sorry, it's school pickup time near ours, so we've got the delight of children.
Yeah, we love children, don't we?
Yeah, like a kick in the face.
Yeah, so that was cool. Up in Manchester, and I think we got some good content. Like, your video came out really good.
Yep.
Which has spurred on a few ideas for a couple more things coming down the pipeline coming forwards. Put it this way, Mr. Cooper and us will be seeing each other very regularly. So a lot more content will be coming out of that weekend after discussions with Robbie. It was really cool to have those kind of in-business discussions over dinner. And it felt like he wants us not just to be athletes, but he wants us part of the business, which means a lot to us to have that kind of invested interest into what goes into it. We have a real say. So myself and Ali have been talking today.
Oh, he's been talking to me too.
Yeah. So we're basically Robbie's busy. He chases his ass. He's the most busiest guy trying to make every decision and doing everything for that business. So it's time for some of the athletes to take some of the slack there. So Ali being in charge of the educational platform, we are having a monthly Zoom call as athletes, and we're getting together ideas in terms of who pitches into what part of the content, and we're all basically contributing into this thing that is going to be absolutely fucking amazing.
By bodybuilders, for bodybuilders.
That's the main thing, is by bodybuilders, for bodybuilders. So you've got athletes ranging from all sorts of different categories, different backgrounds, different methodologies. And the idea is manifesting all of this content from different areas and putting it in where you're going to see different perspectives from different bodybuilders, because we're not all going to agree. We're not. And that's the point of it, is bodybuilding is so multifaceted. Just because I don't agree with, say, the way Ali sets up a training session or anything else he doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just my preferred method, his preferred method. It both works, but it both works in line with the client in which he's applying it to. So it's so much cool stuff that's going to come out of this, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to catch up with them all.
Yeah, there's going to be a bit of a series in which we're not going to talk about just yet, which is going to be very, very fucking cool. That's between us and Mr. Cooper. So yeah, it's more so now with the athletes of football, we're taking it upon ourselves to take a bit of burden off of Robbie's shoulders, because he's so busy, he can't do everything. And I think the fact the athletes want to do this and take a big chunk of the business, it just shows how everyone really fucking loves the company, because we do. We want to do as much as we can. There you go, FBS.
It has got a chocolate stain on it.
Yeah,
of course.
That's part of the new design.
Yeah,
it's just a permanent chocolate stain.
I think there's something else over here as well. I'm surprised I haven't got raspberry on it yet, to be honest.
No, that's to come. Yeah, we'll be working on some new clothing as well soon, which again, by bodybuilders, for bodybuilders. So although the clothing's good and it sells, we've picked some holes in it and we want to improve. Like, for example, we don't like the tight necks.
Well, you don't like the tight neck. I don't mind it because my neck's not as thick.
Well, a lot of guys won't like the tight necks.
Yes.
So we like, as bodybuilders, we've got big necks. We don't want to feel suffocated. We want a looser fit. We want to feel comfortable in what we're wearing, and it's got to represent us. So a whole lot of new designing is going to be done. It's almost like a whole reface. So we're excited. We're really excited, because you're obviously going to be pitching in with the clothing as well, aren't you? You're going to do a lot.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. So
with my extensive background in fashion.
You do.
I used to be a fashionista back in the days when I used to be able to fit and stuff off the rack in Topshop and All Saints.
Yeah.
One of them days.
Yeah. So we did a shoot at Flex and Tone. That was cool. The gym was cool. The owner was wicked. Like, you could tell he's been around bodybuilders. He forms that gym for bodybuilders. He wanted us in there. He was so grateful to have us training and just having fun with all his toys.
I nearly ended up in the Christian worship center, which is on the first floor of the building. That would have been an experience. They were singing.
Yeah.
They were singing and clapping.
There you go.
It was tempting.
They weren't clapping cheeks in there, were they?
No.
Yeah, so that was cool. Flex and Tone, definitely the gym to go to if you're in Manchester. I've heard EP Jungle's good as well, but we didn't get the chance, did we?
We went to FLF instead.
Yeah, we didn't have a good experience there. Like, we won't go into it. We went into it on our stories, but like, the bottom line of it is it's not for, and I get it, it's just not for us, is it? It's not for bodybuilders. It's a PT studio.
You don't want to get into it. I'm biting my lip.
Well, we just got told off a lot for doing actually what we deem as good gym etiquette, putting weights away, but putting them away too loudly when you have metal plates that do cling, whereas the PTs wouldn't put the weights away at all. Little things like that, and just being told off, even like for making too much noise, or if you're unracking a machine, to put it back. Like, I can't fit in the lateral, the prime lateral, so to get in it, like a lot of guys and a lot of people, like, when you get into it, you can't just slip into it. I need to go one arm in, get an arm out, up, then get the other in. So then when I've failed, I also need to come out sideways to let an arm drop to get out again.
It's the bastic wiggle.
Yeah, and like, I got told off from the owner for that. But it was the way it was kind of sarcastic, wasn't it?
Are you all right, mate? Are you okay, mate? Is everything all right, mate?
was like,
thought you were injured or something like that.
Yeah,
It's just like
it was no, at this point, like, you come up to me and shook my hand, so, oh, I'm there, I thought it was coming up to me and said, hey, it's really nice to have you. It was really nice to have you in here and whatnot. I see you're a serious bodybuilder and it's cool to have you in here. Like, kind of the what we got from Flex and Tone. I was kind of expecting that the way he was. Then he just changed his tune completely and he had to go at me. I was like, whoa. Yeah, I was so taken by surprise. It wasn't long after that I left.
Yeah,
because it felt like all eyes on us, PTs kind of following us around, kind of thing. It wasn't nice. And then after talking to a few more people that had similar experiences there, a lot of people have been banned from there for nearly being a bodybuilder. In which case, bodybuilders, we've been around gyms far longer than a lot of these PTs that are just out of uni. We know etiquette a lot better. We know common sense a lot better.
The red flag was when there was more PTs in there than there were people training. And it literally looked like there was some sort of work experience day going on. I got told by somebody that looked maybe a day over 14, oh, can you put the weights away? Or can you not slam the weights together? It's like, well, I was putting them away. And the thing is, it's that, start off, we had to pay £15 for a day pass.
Yeah, it was 15 quid.
15 quid.
But no gym should be 15 quid for a day pass. No gym.
Not unless you've got like some sort of bouncy castle, a ball pool with a death slide. I'm pretty sure the infrared sauna was just a sign on the door.
Yeah, like a nice kind of chill out spot of saunas and stuff, and like hot tubs would be nice, wouldn't it? Like a hardcore gym.
How cool get a free meal with it.
Yeah, how cool would it be if you had like a hardcore spit and sawdust gym, then you had a leisure side of the gym, which you can just go out and chill after your session in the sauna area, or like a nice little spa, like total adverse environment, hardcore spit and sawdust. Then you go through into this lovely leisure area with like
bean bags.
Yeah, bean bags and like TVs.
Dogs.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Like, I think Dinos has that in Dubai.
Still not going to Dubai.
Yeah.
What else did we do? Did a lot of driving, didn't we?
Yeah, there was a lot of driving.
Yeah.
It was tiring. On the way back from, we did a shoot for Naughty Boy.
We did
a shoot for some of their new products.
That was interesting because that was like more model mode than I've ever done before.
I felt very leisure. Leisure.
Blue Steel came out.
You do your Blue Steel, really. 3, 2, 1.
I don't do Blue Steel. I do try not to laugh that it's Blue Steel.
Yeah.
So we did that and trained together for once.
Yeah, it's hard though. The music was so loud and they couldn't really.
Yeah, and I'd forgotten how much of taking plates on and off is involved when we train together. Although back is probably the easiest session to do that.
It's the closest, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because I was still doing what you did 5 plates. You did 6 plates.
7.
7. Oh, 7.
You did 4. 3,
yeah.
4. It's not that far off.
No.
Yeah, we had a few off-plan meals while we were out as well, so probably good to burn some calories.
Yeah, off-plan meals, including a little trip out to Mr. Crossland's and his lovely lady Shauna.
Yeah,
boss man.
That was really nice. They took us to Fazenda. They paid for most of the meal, which, like, for me, I'm really hard on accepting that kind of thing, but you can't argue with them. They're so fucking blunt and like stubborn.
It would have got to the point where you were actually being insulting by not accepting it.
Yeah. Fazenda, it's a bit of a chain, isn't it? It's got one in Birmingham and Manchester. If you like meat
and all you can eat meat,
just flip the pad, you want more meat. Very, very fucking good.
Yeah, and they have a salad buffet with lots of cheese.
Yeah,
which you did well to avoid.
Yeah, I had a bit of cheese on my potato.
Although you did tell some poor randomer in the queue for the buffet that you can't have cheese, otherwise you'd shit yourself. And at which point he just did not know where to look. And he was like, yeah, and Dave's got cream seeds.
Yeah. So like we're walking around the aisle to like get food.
Think Pizza Hut salad bar.
This guy behind me, I'm like, yeah. So I'm picking out bits. He goes, oh, I can't have that. That makes me shit myself. Then like 2 more plates onwards, I can't have that. Shit, make me shit myself. This guy is like, this dude.
And to put it in perspective, this chain of restaurants, it's quite smart. There were lots of smart people in there, and they let us Muppets in our joggers and hoodies.
Yeah.
Literally, I hadn't even had time to shower after the nautical shoot.
We didn't know we were going out for dinner, did we? But
I think we did as we got in the car.
no, I mean before we went to Manchester.
No, we didn't.
No, so otherwise we would have packed something a bit smarter. But that was a lovely meal.
I had dresses, I just couldn't be able to put them on because I hadn't showered.
Yeah,
and by the time we knew we were going out for dinner, we were already in the car.
Mm.
It involved a cobbled street as well, which was interesting.
What do you mean?
Going to Dave's, there was that cobbled street.
Yeah, it was lovely. Dave's property is beautiful.
Yeah,
really, really
dogs
nice.
enjoyed themselves.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the other thing that's happening with eval?
The carrot?
No, but yeah, we could talk about that. I meant the thing in September that's happening.
Oh, I didn't know we were going to announce this.
Well, I kind of already alluded to it on another podcast, so I think I should properly say it.
Can we release this as soon as it's posted? So
yeah.
Yeah.
So eval are sponsoring a show up in Gateshead of all frigging places, and obviously being an IFBB pro, it's kind of difficult to do anything with other federations unless it's to do with your sponsor, basically. So I am having the pleasure and honour of doing a guest posing slot at the Gateshead FitX show on the 17th of September on behalf of eval. It'll be quite good because it's going to be
about 6 weeks out.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it?
About 6 weeks out from the Olympia. So be nice. It's a nice little checkpoint for us to kind of break up prep. We're aiming for that guest posing.
Yeah.
And it gives me a chance to have a look at you under some lights, practice a little peek.
And practice my routine.
Practice your routine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But get on stage.
Yeah.
Again, like, it's just a nice opportunity for you to feel that again.
Yeah. So part of it will involve sticking needles in people, taking their bloods during the day, and then chucking myself on stage.
I'm
might even get a tan on.
I'm excited for that. As you showed me, Sue sent some fabric for.
No, I sent her some fabric.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah. So hopefully I may be able to get myself a new posing suit for the occasion, something a little bit fancier than the old black.
What I didn't know is that a posing suit is different to a stage suit.
Yeah.
Like the stage suit has all sequins on it and whatnot.
Well, I can't say it. Crystals.
Swarovski. No, something like that. Yeah, so that'd be nice, wouldn't it, to have a new suit there?
Yeah. Unless I get particularly fancy and decide to bust out one of the stage suits again.
What day is it? 23rd?
17th.
17th. Okay. I've got a client doing a FitX show the week after that, so I might see if we can do both, so I can have a client on stage that day as well.
It depends who the sponsor is. But then eval are at all of the FitX shows providing medical cover, so...
Well, I'm gonna have to go to that one anyway because you'll go.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is I might not, if that doesn't align with my sponsors, I can't do posing at a federation that's not NPC IFBB.
No, I mean not you. I mean I've got a client doing FitX on the 23rd.
Oh,
and if he's doing the 23rd, he may as well get a bit more stage time and do the 17th as well because he'll be ready. Yeah, might bring a couple over. Be nice.
And we may, if we can get the logistics sorted, be collecting the eval caravan, the Frogmobile.
The Frogmobile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mana's nickname from Dave is Wide Mouth Frog.
If you are old enough to remember the Maltesers advert, that's what it's in reference to. Yeah. So there's a couple of like frogs as decals on the caravan. It's pretty cool. It's a big fuck off blood drop on the side as well. With a little frog.
Yeah, and inside it's got like
frog mugs,
but I was going to say beds. It's got no toilet, but we're going to get a little portable frog toilet.
Frog urinal.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the back you've got the blood clinic. It's really smart. It sounds like what the fuck, but it's fucking smart.
Yeah.
Then in the front, you got like all the couch area, sink, cooking facilities. So then we can stay in the caravan on the move around shows and whatnot. Save me a ton of money on Airbnb for clients, just save my caravan.
And also, any of you out there that have had the pleasure of blood work in the Cherokee, it will be somewhere far more suitable than sat in the passenger seat.
I always, she's doing a flip, look.
Ruby's doing acrobatics.
She just turned herself over again.
Sunbathing.
Yeah, so to be fair, whenever you've done blood work out of my car, I've always had such positive reviews of my car.
Yeah, that's true.
Swanee loved my car, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was like going on about it. It's like, hey, I really like this. This is really nice. I think a lot of bodybuilders like my car because it's fucking huge.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is this space wagon?
Yeah, because it's like it's American design. It's a Grand Jeep Cherokee Grand, so it's fucking massive. I got it on the basis of I didn't want finance, so I didn't want to pay for like a really expensive car over time. I'd rather pay for something I could afford. Cost me, it was 60,000 miles on it. Cost me 16 grand. Tell you what, best car I've ever had. I fucking love it. So much space. Like I sat in the F Pace, I sat in the X7, I sat in the what's the
Did they have to get a shitty horn to get you out?
No. Well, the other ones they were sport seats. The Audi the Q7, Q8, whatever the biggest one, that as well. Couldn't really fit in it. But that most space, like the seats aren't rounded. If I get another car anytime soon, and I am now considering getting finance because it looks good on the business, I'll probably get another one, in all honesty. It's so nice, isn't it? Yeah.
After my ban from driving, I may get a Fiat 500. That'd be comical.
Why?
Just because the comical value.
Is that really the only reason you get it?
Yeah.
Have you actually thought about like what car you get?
No.
I think you get like a Golf or something.
Yeah.
So reliable in it, VW.
Yeah. I've got an Audi e-tron, smart as fuck, electric spaceship, nicknamed by Nat, that is on a salary sacrifice scheme. So my fun next week is calling that lease company and going, by the way, I'm leaving the NHS 3.5 years before I said I would. Can you have it back, please? Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm also getting banned from driving. So yeah.
Yeah, basically you got done for speeding. It was your last warning, wasn't it?
Well, to be fair, 6 of those points were for forgetting to renew my insurance during 2020 prep.
Yeah, error move.
Well, it's prepping, isn't it?
Yeah, prep makes you do stupid shit. What's the stupidest thing you've done on it, apart from that?
So there was that. There was dropping a 25 kilogram plate on my big toe 10 days out from my pro debut. That was fun. Yeah. Poor Dave at the gym didn't know what to do. It was just like, I was hugging the leg extension. Nat and Ed were there just looking like, oh, fuck. And Dave was sort of almost, you know, when people go to kind of pat you on the back and don't quite touch you because they don't really know what to do. Yeah, I did that. I swore a lot. I did that. I put petrol in my diesel T5 and drove it 40 miles with it stalling every time I changed into second gear at a roundabout, and basically had to get jump started by my mate Andy about 3 times before we eventually got it low loaded. And it wasn't until about 2 hours later that I made the connection between picking up the green handle at the petrol station and putting it in my diesel van.
Why did you pick up petrol in the first place?
Because I was on prep.
No, but had you ever had a petrol car?
Yeah.
How long before that?
Quite a long time before that. No, actually, the Mini was petrol, I think. Yeah, no, it was petrol.
Oh, fair enough.
But that was still like 2 years before. I had the van for a little while. This is the van I used to sleep in between shifts. That was fun, including in the Beast from the East.
I haven't really done anything that silly in prep. There's purchases that I regret. There's an engagement I regret. There's an engagement I regret.
Never done that.
Oh, fucking hell, that was a big error. What the mind does.
I've tried to start relationships before realizing that people really don't understand bodybuilding.
Yeah. That's the time thing though, you live and learn, right?
Yeah.
I had a car accident one day out from the British in 2019, but it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. It was a Eastern European guy. I think he was trying to get clean.
Oh yeah, they used to do that all the time in London.
Yeah, that was in Hull. No, but nothing too silly.
I'm sure I've done other things that no doubt somebody will remind me of when they've listened to this. Britt or Kelly, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, so Manchester happened. That was wicked. Then on the way back, we went to Birmingham. I saw Christian. We were in the studio for 2 episodes of CoachCast. No, that's his old podcast.
Oh,
CoachCast. Coach, fucking hell, that's bad. Christian, if you're listening, mate, I'm sorry. It was really good.
Shout out to the Birmingham podcast studio, by the way, for allowing dogs.
Yeah, a lot of dogs in there. That was cool because it was really warm outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. We were intending to do an episode just me, episode just mine, and then one together, but we're gonna have to go back and do it again anyway because we had loads to talk about. And we felt like we were on the fringes of a lot of different subjects and couldn't really, because me and Christian can go on. But we want to do an episode together as well. So we'll do that at some point.
Maybe a bit closer to the Olympia.
Yeah, maybe, but it's still traveling. We'll probably want to reduce the amount of travel. Maybe after Olympia.
Yeah.
Then you have that to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, but that was wicked. Yeah, I'm never nervous for a podcast, but I was actually nervous for that. And weird because it's fucking Christian, like he's a good friend of mine, but I think it's being in person on like a serious kind of environment.
There was a microphone like here.
Yeah. But it went really well.
I spent most of it looking around the microphone trying to talk to him.
Yeah, I can't see you.
Yeah, but that was interesting because he said he was quite nervous about doing my podcast because me and Christian we've chatted at shows, but you know I know him better through Dan, but I still wouldn't say we've never really had a one-on-one conversation, so it was quite interesting. It was one of those ones where we just kept flicking around topics because we just go off on tangents. So yeah,
so that'll be released soon, so give that a listen. Marna's podcast and my one, then home.
Yeah,
eventually, and just kind of catching up, aren't we? We did realize just how much we love our home and Exeter in general compared to like the
still went to Plymouth yesterday though, didn't we?
Yeah, to train, but we do love it here. It's so much more peaceful, and just a generally nicer environment. We don't like built up places. It's not to say, because I say it's a shithole, it's not like that. You're either a city person or you're not, or you're kind of in between. We're in between, where we like the countryside, we like the beach, we like the woods, but we also like a nice kind of city nearby, but not too overrun. And
not too city.
Exeter's so perfect for that. Is there another city that comes to mind that would be like that? Is York kind of like that?
I've never been to York. Well, I've only been to the outskirts of York, and that was back in the days when I used to drink, so I was drunk. Bath, but yeah, Bath's a city actually.
Yeah, you need to take me to Bath someday.
Yeah.
I want to try and work out where you're taking me for my birthday. It's my birthday on Sunday, but she's gonna Saturday or Sunday. Sunday.
How can you not remember?
Fuck knows. I don't really do much for birthdays.
No, but it's a date, isn't it?
It's the 23rd, but I don't know what day it falls on.
Well, does that not tell you what the date is?
The date today is the 21st. Tomorrow's Saturday, so it's Sunday.
Yeah, there we go.
So it's Sunday, and you've got a surprise. You're going to take me somewhere.
Yeah. Slightly weather dependent.
So it's not the Eden Project.
Slightly weather dependent.
Okay, so it's a decision on the day.
I have options.
Okay.
Keep you on your toes.
I like that. We're going to go out for a meal Saturday night with our people. I'm not allowed to even know who's invited, am I really? But I know the main people, but I don't know if you've gone outside those main people. But either way, it'd be nice. Yeah.
I like how you're trying to guess, and I feel like I'm giving 0 away.
No, are we going to go Zuckery's or FS?
It's up to you.
Is it?
Yeah. It's your birthday.
Oh, I don't mind.
I thought you wanted Zuckery's.
Yeah, I want Zuckery's.
This is the option between Turkish or Turkish.
They're right next to each other, two Turkish places.
One's a bit more formal than the other, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we like Turkish because generally I don't stain the sheets after
Yeah.
Turkish.
Although you did have a moment after dinner with Robbie, and that was basically Turkish. It was Lebanese.
Yeah, that might have been the chocolate cake though.
And ice cream.
And ice cream, yeah.
Yeah, more likely the ice cream.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, off-plan roulette, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. That's the update and catch up. The bullshit. That's done. Have you gone prepared for any subjects? Is there anything you want to talk about particularly?
I don't know.
I want to do a little bit of time
Mm-hmm.
talking about something that I don't think we've fully explored yet.
Right.
And that's something that means a lot to you, and it's become more to my attention since you've brought it up. And that's consent.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go off on the tangent.
So I've got a few little bugbears in the bodybuilding industry, to which I think that the industry could learn quite a lot from the medical profession. One of these things is consent. So
That's not consensual sex.
No. So before I would do anything in the ambulance service, give any medication, any procedure, take anyone to hospital, you have to explain the risks and the benefits of doing that. So I'm trying to think of a prime example. So one of the medications we give, salbutamol or Ventolin, asthmatics will be really familiar with it. But in the ambulance service, you give it through a mask nebulizer. So it's a bit more potent than just the standard inhaler. And some of the side effects are muscle tremors and palpitations, just to name two. So I would say, I'm going to give you this medication. It's like your inhaler, but it's a bit stronger. Ultimately, it will help you breathe more easily because it will open up your airways, relaxing the smooth muscle. But you might end up with shaky hands and you might have an awareness of your heart beating. Are you okay for me to give you that medication? So patient goes yes or no. If they say no, I'd be like, right, okay, but do you realize that it could have a detrimental effect on your health if you don't, hey Manu, if you don't have that, ultimately, I can't say for sure, but you might end up dying. Bit doom and gloom, but you have to make sure that that person is fully aware of the risks of doing or not doing something.
It's quite interesting that, like, the example you even gave there are still, because we as bodybuilders in our industry, we extract so many of these medications for our own different usages. So you use the example of salbutamol.
Sorry, that's my bum.
Yep. You use the example of salbutamol, which is in the bodybuilding industry also used as a lipolytic aid.
Fidgety.
As a lipolytic aid, it upregulates beta-2 receptor pathway, and you beta-2 agonist. So you in the medical scene would explain to a patient the risks of which using this has and why we would prescribe it. But in the bodybuilding scene, we're using the same medications, but we're not explaining those same risks.
It's a different method though, isn't it? Because it's oral.
You can get salbutamol drops or
ingestible then, rather than inhalatory.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
Because you wouldn't sit there in prep with a fucking nebulizer on.
No, but it's the same drug and it has the same effects. Like it's like clenbuterol.
Yeah.
The same kind of thing. We tend to, bodybuilders, we use more clenbuterol than what is used in the medical scene.
It's like metformin. That is a type 2 diabetic drug.
So some things, I think whatever you use, you do need to explain what the risks are. So the main risk with metformin that comes to mind with me is you can shit yourself for a few days. It can upset digestion. But outside of that, if you are, again, it's person dependent on what their plan is. If you're using enough food, enough carbohydrate that you think that blood glucose levels are going to trend upwards over time and throughout the duration of a long bodybuilding career, I see metformin as a good prophylactic aid in reducing risk factors.
But then it also has a side effect of reducing joint inflammation, doesn't it?
It does as well. So anti-inflammatory.
I actually, when I was peak off season, I ran out for a little while, and I did notice retrospectively my joints took a bit of a hammering when I wasn't taking it.
And I've just got you a lot of metformin from Turkey.
Brilliant.
It's just arrived.
Brilliant. But what we're getting at is there is a lot of, or there appears anecdotally when you speak to different, I'm not talking about Dan's clients, I'm talking about people within the industry who have a coach in general, where they have been advised to take X, Y, and Z, and the focus is all on its perceived positive effects, without necessarily discussing the risk factors involved. So when we're talking about consent, it's not, are you okay with this? It's about informed consent. Does that person have all the information available to them, both positive and negative, to make an informed decision about putting that compound in their body? And speaking from my own experience with previous coaches, there has been, and this is why it came to my head, there has been a lack of that. And doing the WPD podcast yesterday, there was quite a lot of conversation about it should be on the athlete to go and seek these things out. But I think, unfortunately, there is a lot of pressure within the industry to almost be using anabolics like a badge of honor. Oh, I'm running this, I'm running that, I'm running whatever. And this pressure to use anabolics when actually you don't necessarily need to, especially if you're in your early 20s, female, and doing a first-time bikini competition. In my opinion, my humble opinion, there isn't a requirement for utilizing that much.
Yeah, and from my own experience with clients, I have been guilty of hypothetically having clients use certain compounds and not explain risk factors to them. Like, it happens in the industry, but before having that perspective, I now, whenever I prescribe something, hypothetically, I will say, we're using this for this, but have in mind that these are the side effects or potential side effects. I shouldn't say side effects, actually. I should say effects. Effects. Yeah. So one thing in particular that is very new to me as of last year was I did a pillars course with Dave, and the whole idea was that I wanted to be able to read blood work. Now, this is part of due diligence in the way that if you can read blood work and you understand drugs, certain mechanisms of different drugs from the steroid family tree or other ancillaries, then you can link the two together, read someone's blood work and understand what are go-tos or potential go-tos and which are probably not very beneficial for that person's blood work. Now, I'm not saying any steroid is beneficial to the blood work, but to a person's blood work, but I'm saying there are compound choices that are on the table and ones that are certainly not on the table. So the main one that gets demonized a lot is drugs that are non-pharmaceutical. Now, yes, equipoise, for example, is not a pharmaceutical drug. It's it's in the name. It's equine. It's for horses for certain purposes. But in a certain setting, it becomes a less harmful substance. I say less in a certain person's blood work than another. So, for example, if you've got somebody that has a weakness in their HDL and it's constantly declining, then that person should probably not use a lot of AIs, so anti-aromatase inhibitors. That person should probably not very often use very high DHT derivatives like Winstrol or Primobolan or Mastron, because Primobolan and Mastron in particular has been labeled as part of the safety model drugs. There is no safety model in bodybuilding. I'm sorry, there's not. And the whole idea that you're having a health phase, there is no health phase in your years of doing bodybuilding. But there are drug selections that when you identify your weaknesses within your blood work, you can make more smarter decisions regards the compound of choice. So that is where, so for example, if you have a client that has reducing HDL over time, and it's very, very evident that's their weakness in their blood work, but for some reason that client doesn't have very large increases or at all in my situation with RBCs, red blood cell count, that is where equipoise could be a really useful anabolic, because it doesn't have as detrimental effect on on HDL as Masteron or Winstrol, but I also don't have large side effects of RBCs. So fulfilling my androgen load via a little bit of equipoise rather than using high DHTs could make a lot of sense. Theoretically. Not to say you don't, regular blood work will tell you over time in which what that drug protocol is doing to your blood work. That's how you learn. But that is where kind of informed consent takes another level in terms of the standard of coaching you're receiving. Your coach should be looking at blood work, and there are certain drugs that shouldn't even be put on the table for that client to be exposed to. So when I'm hypothetically saying, okay, we're going to use XYZ, these are the side effects, and this is the reason why I've used these over these drugs, because looking at our blood work, your RBCs, they get out of control fast. That means EQ is not an option for you, but your HDL holds out pretty strong. Then I'm going to bias primobolan and Masteron probably for androgen load over equipoise. That's lost in coaching now. Well, not lost, it's just not being educated in blood work and what drugs do.
I'm all for a person doing their own research, doing their own due diligence, but there are elements within a bodybuilding annual cycle, and I'm not talking drug cycle, I'm talking about the cycle of off-season and prep, where your brain function is not actually necessarily in the right place to seek that information out for yourself. You are vulnerable. Ultimately, you're in a calorie deficit, you've got fuck all body fat, you are vulnerable.
What just happened to me? I just used 210 milligrams of orals a day, but I know that's probably not fucking good for me. Like, nothing is good for your body. But in retrospect, if I was of sound mind and not hell-bent on bringing the best possible look, because bodybuilder mentality, more is more, of course. It's not. My body at the universe was fucking tired, and a lot of that was drug toxicity. There was a lot in there. But of sound mind, I know, like for a client, I would not do that. That is a coach's job to hold that client back, because our bodybuilders, we are hell-bent on progress.
But it's things like, you're in prep and your coach wants to implement ADVAR. So you're already in a calorie deficit. You've already been doing your cardio. You've already been pushing things. You're tired, you're hungry. I can't think straight. So now your coach has said, I'd like you to implement 10 milligrams of ADVAR, please.
And all you're thinking at that point is
the stage look.
Tool, let's use it.
I'm going to get hard. I'm going to look fuller. I'm going to look more vascular. You're not necessarily thinking, when it comes to coming off this, what's my life going to be like? For a female especially, you could end up, depending on the duration of the cycle, you could end up coming out of that prep with no hormones. Your hormone suppression, your hormone function has been utterly suppressed to the point it's in the toilet. Has that risk been explained to you? Has that risk been talked through with, do you realize that, depending on your body, we could potentially have a bit of a hormone issue at the end of this? Even things like clenbuterol. Do you have an underlying heart condition? Do you have any sort of palpitations? Anything like that?
We literally had a conversation not so long ago in which I held a client back from ever using clenbuterol because he's got a heart condition. And that client wanted to use it despite knowing his heart condition, and that is no wrong with him. He's an athlete.
Well, the other aspect of informed consent is it is within your right to make a bad decision. So if you know all the information, so that client, for example, okay, so you've got a heart condition that you've had major surgery on, you were born with it, you still have a weakness there, you're still regularly checked by the doctors. do you realize that if we use clenbuterol, it could cause muscle wasting on your left ventricle, you could end up with palpitations, it could cause electrical conductivity issues. If the client goes, I understand all of that, I'm happy to accept those risks, I know those risks, I understand those risks, yes, I'd like to use clenbuterol. As a coach, yeah, you have a responsibility to not prescribe anything dangerous, but also you have a responsibility to ensure that an athlete is doing something as safely as possible. If the option would be that that client would up and leave you and then go and do their own thing or go to a more irresponsible coach, then okay, so if you're going to be using that, I want you to get a heart rate monitor for when you're doing cardio. If your heart rate goes above 150, then it's those, I'm just plucking things out the air that you could do to mitigate those risks.
In this scenario, the client, I didn't see it necessary for the fact that he wasn't in prep, he was doing a diet phase, and we could get the job done without the usage of clenbuterol. And he's done the diet phase now, he looks fantastic, and he's ready now, set for his off-season growth phase.
But what I'm getting at is it's important to have those conversations with your coach or your clients to discuss those risks, to make sure all parties understand those risks. It's also things like femtest in females. If you are using femtest as a form of hormone replacement therapy, either you may well have to stay on that for the rest of your life, or at some point when you're done with bodybuilding, you have to come off the femtest and purposefully crash your hormones so you can go to a GP and actually get prescribed HRT through an HRT clinic. And neither of those options are particularly fun.
And it makes it sound like we're anti-drugs. Guys, like for me, I'll talk about myself. I'm not pro-drugs. I'm not anti-drugs. I'm just, let's do it smartly.
And I'm a bit more about risk acceptance for the level that you are at. In my opinion, like I said before, anyone doing a first-time competition, even a second or even a third, and isn't at a position to be necessarily working towards that pro status, I'm really quite hesitant.
For a female, yes.
You get that's important
for a male, it depends on the route in which that male has already chosen. If that male is already enhanced, you just try and guide it the best you can.
Well, that's why I'm saying first time. If you're a first timer,
first time user.
No, I'm talking about first time competitor.
Well, I've had first timers that are on gear, but they were on gear already.
Yeah,
or
that's perspective.
Or they are at a stage where we decided to use something anyway, and they knew all the risks, and they're already on that cycle, so they won't be competing as a first time natty.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if that client is natural and they are in the they have the ability to compete very competitively as a natural, and they want to fulfill that natural potential, I will always push that. Always. Like Aaron, like if so many people have asked me, is Aaron actually natty? Yeah, he is. And
competing in tested federations.
Don't get me wrong, like he is genetically, he's very good.
Genetically, but also mindset wise.
Yeah, he's a worker, and he's an absolute robot. But he wants to, I don't want to speak for him, but he wants to fulfill as much of their natural potential, and he wants to explore, look, am I good enough to see myself at the top level in the enhanced field? If I'm not, I'm going to keep pursuing as a natural bodybuilder. And I think that's a really responsible thing for him to do.
Because, yeah, you could, I'm not talking about Aaron specifically, but you could do very, very well in a natural federation and decide to make the move across to PEDs and actually not be able to stand side by side with some of the top amateurs.
Some people go from being fantastic naturals and they think, right, I fulfilled my potential. I don't think you ever really fulfill your potential until you retire as a natural. Right, I'm going to step this up a bit. And that's a risk, because you might not have the response you would expect from going from natty to enhanced. We all have different, some people are hyper responders to drugs. Some people are really not. Really not. And I think there needs to be a few things. So, like in terms of, let's say you have a client that does want to go enhanced, what do you ensure that client has behind them before they do that?
Proper training, proper food, proper sleep.
For how long? For as long as they
How
could
long's
bear.
a piece of fucking string?
Yeah, for how long they could bear, and they've made a lot of progress behind their back before they do it. I would not put a natural client on PDs if they hadn't made sufficient progress as a natty. Because if you can't make progress as a natty, you're not going to all of a sudden make progress just because you're in a super physiological environment. A bit different if you have low testosterone as male, because I can understand what's been holding you back.
Yeah.
But those things need to be underpinned first before you then put another pillar in the mix.
Back to Dave's pillars course.
Back to Dave's pillar course. Not plugging it at all, but if you're a coach or even an athlete, I think it's probably one of the most useful things you can do if you're wanting to, or if you are using drugs or prescribing drugs for your clients.
I do not recommend doing a pillars session after a 12-hour shift and hoping that you're going to retain any of that information, though, because it is very informative and it is very intense. And there were a couple of those sessions where I was like, I'm so tired.
I'm an advanced PD user, and I was very confident in my ability in understanding compounds, what they do. That not only refreshed my memory, but also taught me a lot in terms of application, but also it refined my responsibility as a coach.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing. As coaches, yeah, we are hypothetically, that's what we have to say, because we're not doctors. We have a responsibility to, if you're prescribing PDs, one, have the interest of your client's health at the forefront, mixed in with their risk acceptance, of course, but also make sure they're actually going to progress in what they're doing. I think that's very important, because it's all good and well saying safety model this and that, because I don't believe in it, but if you're using PDs, bloody make some progress. And that doesn't mean use more, it means appropriate choices.
The safety model, it's kind of deceptive in its name, really, because like we said, there is no safe approach to bodybuilding, full stop. You're either pushing calories, which isn't healthy, or restricting, and that's even before you put PEDs into the mix.
I think safety model, to me, safety model is a selection of drugs and a selection of drugs not to use in certain phases, which is cool. It's not, we can't learn anything from safety model, but I feel like having a generic template in terms of meg per kilogram is irrelevant. Reason why I say this is because I've clients, there's one actually comes to mind. He is somebody I can't say a coach because of his status in general world. He is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, but he does not need the drug loads in which you'd expect for his body weight. So from a safety model, it actually might not be safe, because safety model might say you need to work up to 15 meg per kilogram. What if you don't need that? So it can actually work in reverse. The safety model, yes, it can hold you back from going over, which could be a good thing in terms of creating a bit of a refinement, but it also might mean you use more than you actually need to. Then again, what if you do need to use more? Which, again, risk acceptance at that point, maybe a bit of a bad, if you've got everything else covered in terms of your pillars, your training, your food, it just means you're not very a hyper responder. You need to use a little bit more.
I think, do you think, having dinner with people like Dave, and then there is a retired bodybuilder at our gym who is also suffering with the sort of repercussions, and I mean, we're talking like 80s, 90s bodybuilding. Do you think seeing them, talking to them, has made you think differently about your own theoretical usage and your clients' theoretical usage?
I think it's more about listening to their experiences of what they did wrong and learning from it before you have to make that mistake yourself.
Yeah.
Dave is constantly having a go at me for certain things I do. He's like a dad to me. He's like a bodybuilding dad to me. And he's constantly having a go at me for doing certain things. And he's like, because I've done it. And there's a way you can still make progress and not do that. And it doesn't mean less drug loads. It's more about selection in certain phases and understanding, again, what I went back to, guys, understanding what your blood work can take and what it doesn't really like. And that is now very much back in line since getting with Hilly. Hilly wants blood work very frequently. So we understand what certain compounds do what to my body. I already know a lot about my body, what I can and can't use, what I could use, but what could be used to the same effect without the same negative effect, you know? So I think that is something in the industry that needs to be handled in terms of, look, regulation is not going to happen.
But there's also, I think, like I said at the beginning, there are lots of things that the bodybuilding industry can learn from the medical industry. And one of those things is what you've just said there, is learning from mistakes. You know, you will see on Instagram an athlete blowing up about a coach that they did this, they did that, they did whatever. And then the coach, there's silence. In the medical profession, if you make a mistake, you're never going to get in trouble if you actually go, I made that mistake. Right, let's sit down and do a reflection as to how I came to make that mistake. Like I've done it before. And this may not sound like a big thing to those listening, but basically I left a patient without doing any paperwork, which in the medical industry is a big thing. And the reason that I left them was because it was hectically busy. I saw 14 patients in a 12-hour shift. So I was trying to do the most for the most, and I made a mistake because of that. And part of the learning from that process was remembering that it's one patient at the time, and I will get to the rest when I can. Why are you giggling?
Because this is so pertainable to bodybuilding.
Really?
Literally what you just said is you try to do the most for the most, and that's why you made a mistake. And I feel like a lot of coaches make mistakes, not because their knowledge is off, but they have too many clients and they're dropping the ball.
But it's about, there's that, and it's about reflection. It's about thinking what led to that wrong decision, breaking down the elements in the lead up to that, and putting your hands up and saying, do you know what? I fucked up then.
And the most important thing, learn from it.
Yeah. So, and that's part of the reflection, looking back, what led me to make that mistake? Well, I was responding to police generated ambulance calls, and they were shouting at me on the radio that they wanted me in X position. I was in Y position. Before I know it, I've sorted a patient out, left because I felt under pressure. But ultimately, the patient didn't come to any harm. It was just a paper trail that was missing, but it shit me up, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you know, I guess without what the intention of the reason why I don't go into the hundreds for my clients, with that just under 50 right now. The route. I'm getting another one.
We'll do it in a minute. I'll let you finish your sentence. Actually, I'll let you talk and I'll go and get them.
Yeah, the reason why I keep my numbers at the moment sub 50. Yeah, I could take on a few more. I do have a bit of space there, but one is I need to make sure I give those clients what I got, the attention which I think they deserve. I want to uphold a standard in terms of decision-making ability. And it's not about service in terms of how many people can you talk to on a daily basis and not flake. It's about being in the mindset that you can actually make the right decision. If you have had 25 check-ins that day, I don't think you are going to be of sound mind by that 17th, 18th client. I don't think they're going to get the same amount of up here from the coach to the client. Then the other fact of it is I guess those mistakes can actually build up into legit blood work issues that could affect that client in the future. I was just saying, like, how do you think by, say, if someone's got 25 clients checking in that day, do you think by the 17th, 18th client that coach is making as good decision making as they were from the first and second? I don't think they would. And if that client is checking in every on the same day, and they're always the 17th, 18th client checking in, that is a string of bad decisions. Not only that is halting that client's progress, but also potentially poor drug prescription, hypothetically. goes in the same. It goes in the same that you're saying. So without me even realizing it, that's actually a really good benefit of me keeping my numbers low, is that I don't have that many check-ins a day. I can't. I've got just under 50. So if I did those across the 5 days in which I do check-in, I take a few on a Sunday, I've got what, like just
Sub 10.
just sub 10 a day. So I know when I'm doing that client's check-in that I am fully aware of everything I did last week, the week before, because I have constant back and forth with this client, and there's not too much around that client that could be impacting my decision making.
Yeah. That's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, and if you can take more than 50, it's not me saying, oh, it means the decision making is bollocks. It just means that you've probably got a lifestyle choice that allows you to take on more, or you've got better brain capacity than I do. Because I admit I'm pretty decent, but I've been at 65, nearly 70, and luckily those clients were not of high caliber, high PD usage and complicated cases. But I can't help but think that I reckon I could have got more progress out of those clients if I had less of the time.
And I suppose then it translates onto show day, doesn't it? And how many you are trying to peak at one time.
Fucking difficult. Fucking difficult. Yeah. I mean, every peak I do for a client, I write down in order of what we do. I always have notes of what we do. If I had 5 doing a show, that's 5 different notebooks. Like, oh, so how much sodium did you have in the last meal? Okay, this client had 3, this had 2, and you get confused, you could drop the ball.
Yeah.
So
that's fun.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. These are the kinds of things we talk about generally, not just when we're on a podcast.
Yeah. Do we have anything else?
All I've got is Snog, Marry, Kill.
Do you want to play Snog, Marry, Kill? Do you want it?
Oh, right. You go first.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was Fuck, Marry, Kill, wasn't it?
Fuck, Marry, Kill. Okay. Are we going to... Yeah, but if we pick people that everyone knows...
If we pick, like, outrageously famous people, then it doesn't fucking matter, does it? You're not going to go Barry down the road, so-and-so at the gym, and your mate, what's his face?
I have nothing, honestly. We'll do a segment of that, but let's think about the people.
Maybe we get Nat on for that.
Yeah. Because he's impartial, he can say what he wants.
Well, yeah, he just doesn't give a fuck, does
We
he?
just throw him at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It gets interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Creepy's just sat like a Sammy ad out there.
Yeah. I don't think we've got anything else. What's the time? 4:41.
There are other things, but it could take another hour, and yeah.
Yeah. Should we try and get a guest on for next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one as well. We should get some Q&As in for that guest.
Yeah.
We have a list of. I have a list of people I want on.
Yeah.
I actually want to get Christian on.
Yeah, no, that would be good.
I would like to get Christian on. I would like to get Hilly on. I would like to get Nat on.
Yeah, Brett. Yeah.
I would like to get Brett
We
on.
could do a Brit episode when we're over with Brit.
Yeah, in person.
Yeah. Be a different couch though.
Yeah, I would be interested to get Hilly on because you two both have that NHS background and you talking about how that impacts your kind of the way in which you coach and the perspective.
Yeah.
It'll be cool. Really cool. We should try and get Cow on at some point as well.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Although
and China and Ali.
Yeah. Yeah, China and Ali would be cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to them about like kind of what we do on a daily basis, but that kind of 2 bodybuilding couples and how they.
Because that was the sort of reason we started this podcast, was to show a bit more about bodybuilding couples, but we haven't really. I mean, something we could discuss is how much of the fucking kitchen you take up when you're stood in it.
Yeah, it's just like imagine like, so if you are the only person in your relationship that bodybuilds to like a high level, imagine everything that you get complaints about the constant cooking, constant taking up space, always eating food, but you're both doing that, and then to an extent it works in a favor that we both do that.
Yeah.
But then there's little things when we both want to do that at the same time.
Yeah, like when we both need the rice cooker, or we both need the air fryer, or
we don't actually generally fight over that stuff though, do we?
No, it's more I'll stand there patiently waiting to get to the dishwasher, and there's just a mammoth man in the way.
Yeah.
And things like when it comes to hanging out clothing, and your standard clothes horse, like we've got one just there, right? So when you have a person like this and they've washed 6 t-shirts, that's that thing taken up.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Couldn't get my head around it when we first got together.
Yeah, that stuff can't go on the rack, can it? That's
no.
Fun.
Hangers are life. Running out of Tupperware.
Yeah. Actually, what I did want to talk about quick.
Yeah.
We will do like a proper. I want to do this with like another bodybuilding couple, so I think Annie and China would be good.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Arnold Classic next year.
Yes.
Now that's in March. It's in the UK. It's not run by two bros. It's run by the official Arnold people, which I think that is super exciting for British bodybuilding, is to actually have the Arnold's committee running that show. I think that's really cool that franchise is being branched out to the UK. We don't know what categories are going to happen there. I think
categories.
Pro categories, yeah, of course. All amateur categories will be done.
Yeah.
But pro categories. Now, men's bodybuilding will be there. We know it will be. Like, I know James has spoken about it, and
like you can bet your bottom dollar bikini will be in there.
I think it'll be bikini, wellness, men's bodybuilding. I think they'll do wheelchair again.
Yeah, no, that was a good shout.
Yeah, really good. I think
that MC was fucking epic.
Yeah.
He was so good.
He was at Toronto as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He went up to him and just said like how much of a good job he did. I thought, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Will WPD be appearing? We don't know, because it seems like WPD is falling out of favour along with a few other categories that I feel like really make the bodybuilding industry a better place. So that's WPD, the 212.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the show, the categories that haven't been shown at the official Arnold's, not last year's UK Arnold's. That wasn't proper UK Arnold's.
Women's bodybuilding.
Figure.
Yeah.
Figure got eliminated. I can't believe that got eliminated.
No.
I think for such a show like that gets held up in, it's not the same regard as Olympia, but it's the next best thing. You should have all those categories.
Yeah.
For sure. Why? So, like, why do you think, like, we know why WPD and women's bodybuilding wasn't in it. They think that it's not feminine and it's a disgrace to the sport kind of thing, really, don't they?
I don't know if there was, so at the athletes meeting in, when was it, 2022, Sarah Bradley and I asked this question, why aren't there more women's physique shows? And the answer was that they're just not, they don't draw the crowds in. Well, watching women's physique at the Arnold, both prejudging and finals was packed. So the interest is there, quite clearly. My DMs would indicate the interest is there, creeps.
Yeah.
But yeah, there seems to be less focus on the more muscular categories. I feel like I've drummed this to death, but how can you expect the grassroots of the sport to be inspired and infused to those categories if you're not promoting the pro categories?
Yeah. I mean, you need to give the up and comers examples to look up to. And if you're not putting them on stage in our country, like WPD, 212 isn't really, like 212 isn't on there because I don't think Arnold likes 212. He called them all kind of monstrosities. He doesn't like them. Jose said he doesn't like them as well. He looks down on them a little bit, which is quite ironic because I think Franco Colombo would have been 212, who was Arnold's best friend. But I feel I feel like with the current crop of WPD in the UK specifically, there isn't much representation. And I feel like a lot of these women that are up and coming would make fantastic WPD in the future if they push for it. Now, if you start giving people the opinion of why you're not doing it because they're not feminine, a lot of these women are going to be discouraged by it because of that reason. And it's just not the case. It's not the look, I would not be dating a man. I would not. Romana is very feminine. She is. And I feel like she's a very good representative for UK WPD in the way that she holds herself. She's very very professional in that way. And I feel like, yeah, we're lucky to have you and a few others, but there's not many. And I feel like actually doing WPD pro shows in the UK and more pro shows in general for other categories, like even men's bodybuilding's only had one. We need more in the UK because America have loads.
Yeah.
They can't all be in Spain and Portugal and Romania.
It's too hot for a start.
Yeah.
Fucking hot.
Like UK bodybuilding is such at the grassroots of bodybuilding history in general. Why aren't we, not just WPD, but why aren't we representing more? Why do you think that is? Do you think that's, well, I'll say it how. Do you think that's Two Bros not putting their finger out to host more pro shows?
I think that's part of it. I think there's not enough pro shows and too many amateur shows. So in a way, it's almost discouraging when you enter a Two Bro show and in the back of your mind as a female, you don't know if you're going to be the only one on stage. Like generally with the men's categories, especially like men's physique and classic, you get a relatively good turnout. As you get up to the supers, maybe things start to drop off a little bit. But again, if you reduce the number of shows, you're then increasing the amount of competitors per show.
Well, what happened to you? So in other countries, whenever there is an amateur NPC show, there's a pro show with it.
Yeah.
Now, this is my opinion. Two Bros, I'll say what I want. This is coming from me, not you as a pro athlete.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Two Bros, they are meant to be under the NPC. They are not a federation in themselves. The federation is NPC and IFBB. They are a feeder to said NPC and IFBB. Now, NPC Toronto, the Canadian Physique Alliance in Toronto, they put on shows. Now, these shows are pro AM. That means, why are Two Bros putting on so many regionals for people to then be good enough to do a pro qualifier when they are meant to be a pro AM federation? And that means they're not meant to be a federation. They're not. They're meant to be a feeder to the NPC. The federation is NPC. Therefore, all these regionals that are being put on, and they have junior categories that can't actually do the overalls anyway, that means they can't turn pro. Why? Reason is more shows, more money. Now, how about we lessen the amount of regionals? All of all of the federations in the UK have your regionals, your PCA, your FitX, everything like that. If you are good enough and you place very highly at the top of those regional shows, you can then do a pro qualifier in the UK. That's what I think should happen. I think bodybuilding is bodybuilding and everyone should merge.
The issue is, though, with FitX, PCA and NPC, they're all slightly different posing.
Standardize it.
Yeah. Ideal world.
Standardize it. Well, I don't think like the Canadian Physique Alliance, to do the Toronto Pro AM, I don't think you need to do a qualifier to do that.
I don't know.
Why do we need qualifiers? If you're shit, you're not gonna win a pro card.
But then I don't know.
Cream always rises.
Yeah, but then how many pro cards do you give out per year and per country?
Well, good point.
Because if you think the States, they have regionals and then they have a pro card.
But imagine, like, if you had 3 pro cards a year in the UK, yeah, 3 big pro qualifiers at AM pros. So less regionals. That means you could put on 3 massive shows. Those amateur shows that could potentially get you a pro card in that show. Imagine how stacked they're going to be. The quality as well.
Yeah. Anabolic squares bar.
Yeah. The quality of those shows are going to be immense. And if people question, like, why the fuck are you doing a pro AM show trying to get a pro card? That is that person's problem.
Yeah.
At that point, they're not going to turn pro anyway. There are a panel of judges that do know what they're doing, and they're doing that. And yeah, they're going to place dead last. But imagine the amount of good quality that are going to come from those shows.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So scrap integrating all the federations. If you're good enough, you're going to be in that competitive lineup in that first call out, and you're going to be one of the ones that could potentially go to the overall and win a pro card. And I think you should have to win the overall as well.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be able to get a pro card for winning your class. Because
I thought you did have to do the overall.
No, so for example, NPC nationals, every class winner gets a pro card.
Oh, that.
Yeah, so like the lightweight, heavyweight, etc., etc.
Oh, right. And, yeah, of course, women, we don't have that.
And in my opinion, if you are good enough then and there to win a pro card as a lightweight, you'll win. Like Gomez would have been, he was a lightweight.
Here's something else for you then. So if you win physique, or if you win classic, sorry, and then you jump in to a lightweight, heavyweight, super heavyweight category and win that, should you be able, what I'm getting at is, if you meet the criteria for classic, should you then be able to win a bodybuilding category as well?
On the same day?
Yeah. It's like figure and WPD.
No.
Because if you're saying on one hand you fit the criteria for figure, how can you then also fit the criteria for WPD?
So, and as well goes to, like, if let's say we go under that there is 3 big shows a year, right? And you have all the categories, I think you should only be able to do one category. If you don't place well in that category, it's either you're not good enough for that category or you're not fit for that category.
Unless you enter juniors and then the open or masters.
Still, if you're a junior or a masters, I think you shouldn't be able to do junior and masters and open bodybuilding. Let's talk about bodybuilding, yeah? I still don't think you should, because you are getting a pro card if you're a junior and you only win it because, we're talking about class wins here, you win the juniors, you shouldn't have a pro card. You should have to win the supers. Yeah. That means there should be no junior category if you're doing the supers anyway. And if you win the supers as a junior, it's not, that means you're good enough. You just beat a load of guys that have been working for years and years into their 30s. That means you're deemed good enough at that point. So you should only have the category, the overall winner, and you shouldn't be able to do more than that, because Two Bros, you had the woman who won figure also won WPD.
That was what I was getting at.
Like,
but then
how?
I can't really talk because this is something else that's a little bit of a bugbear for me. When I turned pro in figure, I had also been asked if I had considered entering WPD at the same show. And I just thought, yeah, whatever. Jumped in. So I turned pro in figure, and then they let me back on with the amateurs in WPD, and I won my height category. So theoretically, what they've said is your pro-worthy physique can now still go and compete with the amateurs. And I didn't really think much about it at the time because it was all so fast.
Well, if that was a pro AM show, yeah, because when you turn pro in figure, you can do any class of female classes, right?
Yeah,
like you've gone from figure to WPD. You didn't win your pro card in WPD.
No.
So theoretically, you could win your pro card in figure, then you could do WPD pro class.
Yeah, that's different because you're not being deemed a pro and then stepping back on stage with the amateurs.
So why should you, as a pro in figure, then do the amateur women's physique?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Regardless of category,
because you've just put a pro with amateurs.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, well, it's not fair, is it? No, I don't.
So I took a space from somebody else. But then again, if I hadn't been allowed to do that category, there wouldn't be enough competitors to have given a pro card out in WPD, because there would have only been 4.
Yeah. Bottom line is, I think I do agree that there needs to be a minimum amount of competitors. And I think for a pro qualifier, I think 5 is a fucking piss take. I think in a pro qualifier, to win your pro card, I think, yeah, minimum 5, but why is there only 5 or 4? Tells me that it's too dilute. What's she eating?
Good question. Ruby.
Gross.
Safe.
Yeah, but if there is only 4 people in your class at a pro qualifier, that tells me the amount of qualifiers is diluted. It needs to be less. Goes back to, why do we have so many regionals, which lead to...
But you see, this is where it gets complicated, because obviously with bodybuilding, you've got your light heavyweights, your heavyweights, your super heavyweights, and they're different classes, aren't they? With figure and WPD at the amateur level, it's a height class that then goes through to the overall, so it's the same category. So if you only have 2 people that are 5'2", 3 people that are 5'6", and then 3 people that are giants and 5'11", for argument's sake, the winner of each of those classes is going to go through to the overall, but there's still only 3.
But why do we need a height class in figure or WPD? Because the pros don't have height classes.
I know.
Classic physique don't have height classes. You are either fit for that category or not.
Yeah. But then that does away with even needing an overall.
I say put them all on stage and let them battle it out. 5 foot nothing and 6 foot everything.
I think it does depend slightly on how many people are in the show. Like, if you've got a very heavily subscribed show, then yeah, split it into height categories. If you've got over, I don't know, 10 athletes, say it's a dream situation and you have 20 people in figure, you're going to need those height categories.
But they don't need them in the pros.
No.
So why?
I don't know.
Wait.
Yeah. Also, something talking about going back to the women's physique, women's bodybuilding thing. For those out there saying that women's physique is looking more and more like women's bodybuilding now, trust me, we don't.
You don't have a fucking clue.
No.
And look, at the end of the day, if a women's physique competitor wins a pro show, yeah, and people say she's more bodybuilding, look, that's on the judges. That's a judge's fault that she won if she is more bodybuilding. There are women in women's physique that are very much on that edge of being women's bodybuilding. There are.
Yeah.
Emily Schmidt. She's fantastic. But Steve Weinberger said she is on the edge.
Yeah.
She is on the edge. She won a pro show this year, yes. She's very much on the edge. Now, if she does go over that edge, I would hope she would get marked down for it. And that would persuade her to then, right, if I want to keep progressing my physique and go for more muscle, because that's the look I want.
It's like that happened to, I can't remember her actual name, but she's Miss Beast on Instagram. She was WPD last year, went to the Olympia last year, but I think some of her feedback was you were on the cusp. So she pushed for it and she's now doing bodybuilding.
Cool. That's what she do. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
Now, if a female decides to continue competing in WPD but looks like a bodybuilder, then she should just be marked down. It's the judge's fault if she keeps getting rewarded for it. The direction of the sport is really due to what the judges are feeding back.
Yeah.
Because if you are told, let's say you're already on the edge of being women's bodybuilding, yeah. If you were told that you're winning pro shows here, doing great, or no, if you were told you need a bit more muscle and you push for more muscle, you're going to, because to place higher, you need more muscle. Now, there needs to be a standard in which that needs to stop at, and that's all due to the judges, what they're rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what impact the height classes are going to have on men's physique. Not that I really care about men's physique at all, but it'd be quite interesting because from my perspective, a lot of those guys actually couldn't be classic. A lot of them could. A lot of them could be classic, but a lot of them couldn't. There's not due to the size, there's a shape to men's physique that is just not classic. It's streamlined V-taper, big upper body. If you put a weight class on top of it, I think they're just going to make their legs smaller so they can fit into the category. Could you imagine that look like Johnny Bravo?
That's literally what popped into my head.
Yeah. So I don't know if I agree with weight category for men's physique, because as well, you're going to make a lot of those athletes do some pretty horrific stuff with diuretics to make weight.
Because there was something we were talking about on WPD podcast is whether we think there will be a height class, a weight cap for women's physique.
Absolutely not.
I don't see how that would work, because again, you're then forcing women to do dangerous shizzle.
You are either like the category you're in. There is every category apart from bodybuilding, really, because it's so diverse. You're just be a freak.
Yeah,
be a freak,
and they are. Yeah, they are epically freakish.
Yeah, just be a freak, and you'll be all right. But there are figure and WPD. The difference in the shapes of those women are very distinct.
Yeah.
And if you're
having conditioning requirements
and the conditioning requirements, but there is a shape and flow to WPD that is WPD and that isn't. Luckily, we didn't know this really until you put more muscle on. You've been told you are classic WPD.
Yeah.
That means you could not be figure. And there was a reason why you didn't place well in figure, even though there were women with more muscle than you didn't have that shape and flow.
Yeah. And I was probably too lean.
Your shape and flow is WPD. It just is.
And it's also about potentially where you lose body fat, for example. So my glutes come in pretty early on, before my hamstrings do, for example. My glutes are in before my hamstrings. My hamstrings are one of the last bits to come through. So as a figure athlete, to get on stage with striated glutes, you don't fit the criteria.
Yeah. And if the NPC are having to put weight cabs to distinguish what is what, most categories, classic is a typical one where people do classic just because they can make weight, doesn't make you classic. Same with WPD. You can put a weight cap on it, doesn't make you WPD.
It's just like pulling a vacuum doesn't make you classic.
No. Luke Sanday could pull a vacuum. I don't think he was classic.
Classic as fuck.
Classic. Yeah, so I think that rather than doing weight classes, I think the judges need to be educated on what the criteria is for that class, and it should be instantly recognizable. When I look at classic, I know what a classic physique and what isn't.
I'm not that shit hot on men's, but even I can work that out.
And to be fair, you know what you do? You use whoever is Mr. Olympia for a number of years running as the standard until that is beaten.
Yeah.
And yes, classes do change over time. For example, arguably, Arnold wouldn't have won a lot of his Olympias if the standard was of today rather than yesterday. Categories do evolve, but it's up to the judges whether they allow that to. Dorian changed the game for bodybuilding. It changed after Dorian. But again, in the 2000s, there were a mass amount of bubble guts. But again, what has happened since then? More emphasis on that midsection shape and flow is taking precedence. And look at the top 10 in the Olympia now, men's compared to the early 2000s.
Yeah.
None of them have bloated guts.
No tortoise shells.
No, and a lot of bodybuilders have changed their physiques to fit in with that. Remember that transformation that Rolly Winkler made for body power? I think it's 2016, because he was always known for the bubble gut, and he brought that in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Something you're working on as well.
So I'm working on, for sure. Yeah, I think that is bodybuilding. You shouldn't have a bloated stomach. Bodybuilding is still aesthetic. I see a lot of guys saying, "Oh, we could be classic," Why? Because he's not got a bubble gut. No, bodybuilding, you're meant to have a nice shape. Just have fuckloads of muscle on it as well.
Yeah.
With no restrictions. Just keep that midsection in check.
Yeah. The next goal.
Yeah. Right. We're done.
I think we're about talked out, really.
Yeah, we should have come with a plan for this one, shouldn't we?
I think we winged it pretty well.
Winged it. We'll come with a plan next time. Q&A. We'll try and we'll put Q&A so we can actually answer questions, and we will try and have a guest on.
Yeah.
We need to talk about.
Yeah. We basically just thought, when have we got time to record the podcast? Friday afternoon. Okay. Should we do it then? Yeah, let's do it. And this is what we came up with.
Yeah.
We're both also a bit socially fried.
Yeah, for sure.
I know.
Yeah, Manchester.
I'm gradually becoming more and more with the couch.
Yeah. I need to eat. We're not in bed late.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I could have had a nap earlier. Yeah. In my car whilst driving it.
All right, let's stop this podcast.
All right. Do it this time. No. Just...
Oh, shit.
We nearly ended the whole thing.